James Donmoyer. I'm the Executive Director of Lebanon County Commission on Drug and Alcohol Abuse.
Dennis Good, Fiscal Officer.
Good morning. We're here for two purposes. The first one is to review and present to you our summary of contracts for 2018-2019. I provided each commissioner with a copy of our contracts. Documents 10 pages long. I just want to point out, first of all, that we have not added providers, nor have we taken providers away from this list. So with that being said, this list is, as far as providers go, the same as it was for 17-18. I do want to point out to the commissioners and everyone in attendance that the only thing on this sheet that changed are rates. You can see in the first column 2017-2018 rates what they are currently, and you can see right aside of that is the 2018-2019 rates, and then the far right you can see what that increase amounts to. What we did this year, and another thing to be aware of, is Lebanon County SCA, our office, is only responsible for setting rates for providers in Lebanon County. We do not control what other SCAs set rates for in other counties. We do use those providers based on what they set the rates at, as well as they use our providers in Lebanon County and use our rates. So with that being said, I want to make note of a few things. Even though there weren't any additions or subtractions, I want to let the commissioners know that there was a 2.5% rate increase for all outpatient clinics, providers in Lebanon County, and that's to include the methadone clinic, and that is consistent with cost of living type increases and so forth. So I wanted to make you aware of that as well. The only exception to that is a provider by the name of J.D. Strife. I don't know if you folks are familiar with him. He got a 5.1% increase this year because last year he was overlooked, to be quite honest with you. So he got the 2.5 plus I made up for last year excluding him. So I think he'll be happy to hear that I righted my wrong, I guess. The other thing that of note in these summary contracts, Crossroads, the inpatient facility out at the VA hospital, they've been in existence since 2003. The cost of a bed out there since 2003 was $112 per day, which is extremely low if you look at the other bed costs at other places. So they got actually a 9.8% increase. A bed right now is $123, so it went from $112 to $123. I would suggest still that is low, really low, as you look at other rates for beds across the state. And this has been their first ever increase. The reason I really didn't worry about the cost of their bed in the past was because our office never did business with Crossroads. Now we do business with Crossroads. In the sense, Crossroads used to be a 12-month program only, core committed people. Now they have a short-term 4-month program, which we are permitted to refer people to that program. So we do utilize Crossroads, and I thought it's fair and reasonable to give them that kind of increase. And again, that is still far below the going rate. Some other notes I'd just like to point out: our prevention providers, Compass Mart. There's no increase in their budget. It will be the same as it was last year. Our student assistance program provider is Empower the Mind. Their contract will remain the same with no increase. And then finally, the RAISE project. They are a buprenorphine, Suboxone provider, main source where we send people for that service. Their contract will remain the same as well. That is pretty much the update on this sheet. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to.
Gordon had a question prior to the meeting on the lock zone. Maybe
Yeah,
you can
well, I
answer.
wasn't really quite sure as to the veracity of this because it's something I saw on the internet and hadn't had time to run it down. It seemed like it may have been a reliable source, but who knows? Have there been any lots or any groupings from the USDA recalling naloxone?
Not to my knowledge. I just, matter of fact, we're getting our inspection yesterday and today. We're being inspected by DDAP, and that was one of the questions they asked me if we're still using it, still supplying it. They didn't indicate that there was any recall on that.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
It might have been spurious. Like I said, I just tossed it out in conversation prior to the meeting as a means of saying, has anybody else heard this? So
I have not, but if I do hear it, I will reach out to you and
thank you.
let you know it's true.
Motion? Yes, I'll provide the motion.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the 2018, 2019 provider contracts at the rates defined. How's that?
Thank you.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered.
Okay, thank you. The second thing we're here for is to present a 2018-2019 budget. This is not my specialty, but I met with Dennis, and me and Dennis talked about this. Dennis is here today to add specifics to what I'm going to present to you. Hopefully I can present it to you in a clear fashion. If you look at the handout I provided, on page 3 of the handout, you will see a 2018-2019 budget summary. If you look at the second column, 2017-2018, which is our current budget, our budget for revenues was $1,206,887. Our expenditures, of course, was that same amount. In 2018-2019, our revenue budget is projected to be $1,341,353. What I'd like to do is make you fully aware that that increase in revenues is primarily from the opiate epidemic funds that the state and federal government is providing to our office. So with the revenue going up in 2018-19, the expenditures would go up as well to $1,341,353. What we will do with that money, it will be spent in 5 categories: administration, prevention, intervention, treatment, and case management. The biggest part of that money will go to treatment. And the reason that would go to treatment more so than the other categories is because the money's earmarked specifically for opiate, heroin users. So we have to, that funding stream has to be spent, that money has to be spent in a certain area. So with that in mind, our treatment budget this year was $374,862. Next year it will be $532,155. That's a large sum of money that we got this year, and we exhausted and spent it on opiate use disorder folks, and we plan on doing that next year. One point I want to make is by getting that extra funds, those monies, we're spending less of DPW's money, and since we're a block grant county, and let me explain, Department of Public Welfare, we get BHSI for about $120,000, and we get Act 152 monies for about $122,000. So $242,000 of Department of Public Welfare money is part of our grant money. I was told yesterday, I talked to Jared, who's another fiscal person, and he told me it looks like we're going to have about $80,000 to $90,000 of that money left. The 2 previous years, since when we weren't a block grant county, we sent it back. So this year we're going to be able to maintain those funds in the county, and I'm going to be able to, along with my partners, Kevin Strum of MHIDEI and Phyllis Holtry of Community Action Partnership, we're going to be able to disperse that money where need be as a group. So that is an absolute advantage to getting the extra money, not spending that public Department of Public Welfare money that we can utilize elsewhere.
Was that 280,000, is that what you said?
No, the total amount that we get is 242,000, but we will probably have about $80,000 to $90,000 of that left.
I combined the numbers,
Yeah,
okay,
so
thank you.
it'll be roughly $80,000 or $90,000.
Okay, well, thank goodness we're finally in that block grant program. That's working out for us. So
That is a big
appreciate
advantage.
your efforts there. So do I have a motion to approve
So
the
moved.
budget?
Second the motion, and thank you for the good work you're doing. Dennis, thank you.
Then,
Go
I
ahead.
brought Dennis along, not just for the pretty face. I don't know, he provided the summary that you guys, that attached to what I just talked about.
Good work,
So
Dennis.
Thank you.
it is all the fiscal that prepares that, I just get to talk about
There's
it.
nothing wrong with the pretty face either.
I didn't want him to think he came here for no
Well, he's
reason.
sticking around for
I-
Kevin.
for Kevin.
Before
Kevin
you-
will need you.
Before you go, Jim,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have some reappointments to the Drug and Alcohol
No, we didn't.
Commission.
But maybe we vote on this motion
Oh,
first.
jeez, I'm rushing, I'm sorry.
Let me chair this
Here's an
meeting.
appointment.
I'm so sorry. Well, he was getting up and, yeah, appointment.
All right, I have a motion on the floor to approve the 2018-19 budget as presented by Mr. Donmoyer and Mr. Good. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So ordered. Now, I was going to remind you of the advisory board because
sorry.
it's on the agenda.
Yeah, I have them in front of me. Sorry, I'll slow down here. I should have the clock behind me, it would be better. There are two individuals who are seeking additional terms on the Lebanon County Commission on Drug and Alcohol Abuse. They are Loy and Marilyn Nolte. They would be then serving until February 19th of 2021.
Move to renew.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second to make those two appointments to the Drug Alcohol Advisory Board. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There you
And,
go.
and Tom Ditzler, whose term had expired, I guess is not seeking to be reappointed to it.
His term has expired and we have not sought him to
Okay.
renew his
So we don't need
participation.
to accept it.
No,
It's
it's
not
just
a
an expiration.
It's
And
not
you-
residency.
So you still have a few vacancies then?
We currently have 11 people on our board, and we have the capacity for 15. Now, in end of August, I have another intern starting in our office from Lebanon Valley College. She will be part of that as the student representative for our board. And I plan on having a student representative, student intern on that board from here on out. So whoever serves as the intern will serve on that board. So technically, we'll be at 12 by the end of August, so looking for maybe 3 more people.
And a follow-up to Gordon's question, there was a recall on the type 4 syringes, but that's not the type we use. I checked with Bob Dowd, he, down in EMA, Department of Emergency Services. They're the distributor to the police and EMS for the county, so there was a recall, but not the type of device we use.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, anything else?